Good evening, family. Welcome to another edition of Thorough Black Talk with your sister Keisha, your brother Tad, and your brother Ashe SJ, along with our correspondents, Brother Blacksmith and Sister Marcia, will be joining us shortly. I hope all of you are doing well and had a great week so far. I hope so. I hope so. Shout out to everybody on the check in, everybody on the chat, those people who are coming in. We live on Facebook, we live on YouTube, we live on Twitch. Let's make it happen, family. Shout out to all the DJs on Twitch. I appreciate DJ Stratosphere who um, actually streamed our broadcast from his music stream last week. So I appreciate that. Got a lot of kudos about that piece on the Democratic Party, the police department, and others as it relates to the kidnapping clubs that happen around northern cities right after um, and during enslavement. So I'm glad everybody enjoyed that. But tonight we are going to continue our look back into Black history. That's right. Don't let February be the only month you study your history, right? Because our history is so broad and vast. We could talk about these things for weeks and years, decades, excuse me, and still wouldn't touch much of our history. That's how vast our history is. And oftentimes, in today's times, we hear a lot of political pundits and mainstream media commentators who try to give insight or commentary as it relates to reparations, if we should have it, when should we have it, who should receive it, who shouldn't receive it. And I often find that those who are engaging in these commentaries really don't have much fortitude to do so. You would never see a Dr. Claude Anderson on CNN or Fox News or any other mainstream media platform discussing reparations. You would always have voices who are sympathetic to other ethnic group needs, and that's okay if they wish to do that. However, this country must pay its original debt for its original sin. So just take a quick look at the screen because tonight we're going to go back in time. We're going to look at some rare footage of Black men and women in the 1920s, the 1930s,
in the late 1960s, the precursor before the Black Power movement. I'm going to take you through a trip through time, so that you can understand the mindset and the philosophy of our people today. Where did it all come from? How did it begin? Who were the people who were planning these meetings? Um, what was the money behind it? Who put the money behind it? Were there some confused black people behind it? Were the boule behind it? Well, tonight, family, we're going to look at some footage tonight. We're going to stop along the way and analyze various points in the footage as it relates to the black middle class. That will be the last video that we will play tonight, and that is where we will drop the link in the chat for you guys to come on live and what before we do all of that, if you want you to your cameras now, charge your phone or listening devices or viewing computers, whatever it is that you need to do before you come on live. So we will see you automatically. You will receive notification that we see you, and then we will bring you in to give either a question or a comment or just your perspective, your analysis of the things that you are seeing. You will have 3 minutes to do so, and then we will bring in the next person. So, as before we begin, because we got to go back to the beginning, family, out of enslavement in this country, and this relates also to the push of critical race theory. Many times on this program, I've said to you all that we backed ourselves into a corner, not understanding history, not understanding the law, not understanding philosophy, and learning how to use the three as a fighting tool, um, politically and legally on our behalf. So tonight, you're going to see a whole lot of things. So I want you to put everything into its proper perspective, okay? So for those of you who missed the previous shows, then I guess you could go back and check it out and see what's going on. Sister Joyce on the check. Let me give some shout outs real quick. What's up, Sister Joyce? That's my family. Uncle good with you, brother. Crush 409 Big Russ. What it is. Philly on the check-in. Farnessa. Our Marcus is bad, sis. It's bad, sis. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Crush 409 said history started with us. Absolutely. Most of the modern inventions that we use today were created by us, right? And then you look, for example, let's take I don't know, how about the Coke company, which owns a lot of paper product companies? They have a lot of subsidiaries, excuse me, I should say, but none of that money trickles down to the inventive class, right? None of it trickles to us, right? What happened to these inventions, the patents? Who took it? Why did they take it? How do we get it back? One of the main components of how you get it back is understanding the history, right? History is very important, and I really would employ all of you to study history on your own, right? Become an autodidact in your discipline, um, because schools are not going to do it for you. And again, to bring it full circle, when everybody was saying we need to silence this person, pull this statue down, all the way back going to Don Imus, I said we're going to back ourselves into a legal and political corner that we are going to pay the brunt for. And so when black people, or those speaking for black people, I should say, that's the correct phrase, was saying that they wanted to silence people like Don Imus without having history at the forefront of their argument, I knew right away black people were in trouble, because you can't silence or take back or destroy history of others and don't think it's not going to blow back on you. When statues were removed after the murder of George Floyd, um, an even greater push of critical race theory was put before the populace. And now that's all you hear, right? In Mississippi right now, in Jackson, Mississippi, which is the blackest city in Mississippi, is Jackson. And you have white citizens who have proposed a bill with their legislator that they should have their own court systems, their own operating systems, their own municipality business infrastructure that would exclude black people, the blackest city in Mississippi. A couple of weeks ago or months ago, I said to you all, or we said to you all, that today in 26 states, slavery is still on the books. And if you believe that they would not put shackles on you and put you back on physical plantations to save itself, you are sadly mistaken. And it's not your fault, but we are not taught the original doctrine, the original philosophy of white males in this country. We are taught everything but that. And if you understand that, you would understand that neither political party can help us. Neither senator or governor elected to those parties can help us. We have been fighting for the same things for several years. So, as you look at this piece in front of you, I see my brother Tad on the check in getting it ready. You see all of the inventions from paper to chess to the alphabet. I mean, the foldable bed, biscuit cutter, super soaker, LASIK surgery, the first successful open heart surgery, the gas burner. I mean, you couldn't even take a dump without black people. You couldn't wear a shoe if it wasn't for Jan Massinger, right? Who invented the shoe lasting machine, right? The envelope seal, fire extinguisher, on and on and on. We can go on forever. We can go on forever. What happened? How did black people still end up on the bottom? How did black people still only today in 2023, we at what, February 16th, I believe, 2023, and we still only own 1% of this country's wealth. So we're going to look at a film real quick. It's about a minute and a half long, but I want you to see where we originated from, out of slavery during Reconstruction, the building of black wealth. Black Wall Streets all over the place. Black people had oil wells. How do we get from oil wells to food stamps? How did we get from mansions to the projects? We're going to take a trip and look through this real quick. Let me see. Here we go. Hold on, family.
And Oklahoma is a unique space in terms of the number of African American towns that were established. Some suggest upwards of 50 African American towns between 1924 and 1928. Reverend S.S. Jones was going around documenting this sort of self-determined, vibrant African American communities. You see the African American educators, doctors, lawyers, landowners, oil barons. And I think that's what's so remarkable about this footage, to think that individuals, how many years out of slavery, are now owning oil wells that are producing 2,000 barrels a day. Is that not the ultimate American dream? Is that not the ultimate American story? It flies in the face of what I think some people consider part of African American history and culture. And I think that that was one of the things that Oklahoma and what S.S. Jones is really kind of showing, is that African American history and culture is not a monolith. And in a way, it became kind of like a marketing tool to encourage individuals to migrate, to move there, that this is a place where you can live, you can thrive, and peacefully reside. There were still palpable racial tensions. There are lynchings, there's Jim Crow, segregation, there's all of these things, and you still have an African American community or many communities that really speak to the fortitude and resilience of Black people in this country.
Mm. So now, this piece, again, this is in the 1920s. I just love the fashion. Am I the only one who like 1920s fashion? But I do. But anyway, you didn't see any loitering. You didn't see black people shifting and shuffling, the way they describe us to be during that time. You saw greatness. You saw black people with oil wells and wealth. You saw black people moving about town with their children and so on and so forth, right? So where did they get this narrative from? Well, as we go on, we're going to show you exactly where they got this narrative from. Now, here is some rare footage of the 1930s of black people in Harlem, New York. Um, and I believe I have some footage of Queensbridge houses in here. I might. Hold on one second. Here we go. This is really just silent footage um of people just going about their day, here.
And so,
You had Go ahead, brother.
real quick, I gotta add, when it says gay black way, it wasn't meaning homosexuality. They were talking about happiness. It's only the homosexual who adopted the term gay to make it synonymous with homosexuality. There was a point where gay just meant happy, and this is that era. Just for clarity.
Thank you, brother Tad. Always on the check-in with the 1-2. I love it.
Now, we don't want folks to get the language twisted. Somehow this is how the alphabet folks adopt our story and incorporate it in theirs and then switch it around and misinform people.
Facts, my brother. So again, family, this is just some silent footage. There is no sound. Um, a brother was recording throughout his travels in the United States, black people around the world, and this is what he recorded of Harlem in the 1930s. Now, I want you to, this fashion is just phenomenal. But anyway, you don't see any loitering. You don't see nobody with their pants hanging down. Mind you, this is one generation out of enslavement, right? You don't see um, sisters wearing bonnets in the street. I haven't seen one bonnet. And I looked at this footage several times, right? And I sent it to Brother Tad and Brother Ashe as well.
Yes.
But you look at brother trying to he hollering at the young ladies, not aggressive, not getting mad because they don't want to talk back to him. You see a brother, a police officer right here directing traffic. Look at the streets. Look at how people are going and coming. Now, today, you have people who complain about driving in the city. It's too many people. There's bikes on the streets. Well, during this time, look at this dude getting a conk. Statuses moving in tandem together. So how were they able to do it back then, but can't do it now? Here's a brother getting his nails done, getting sharp. As Dr. Clark used to say, when you walked up and down 125th Street, everybody was impeccably dressed. You didn't come out looking shiftless with bunny slippers and slides on. You see what I'm saying? We have a break, a break in our psychosis of what we should be doing, how we should be carrying ourselves, being respectful to one another, respectable in each other's company. These are brothers from the lodge, Mason Lodge. Now, mind you, during this time, you would have Garvey walking the streets. right? You would have Hubert Harris walking the streets, all this in Harlem during this time. And not just wealth building, but also the intellectual class, right? Or what some people would call now the conscious movement, right? I don't know where that name come from anyway,
Mhm.
but you know, I don't know where they get that name from, Brother Tad, but this is what it was, right? This is at the Cotton Club. And if you've never been to the Cotton Club in Harlem, you missed something. That's historic right there. They have a replica of the Cotton Club in Japan. Um, so if you've never been to the Cotton Club, you should get yourself there. Brother Peace. Brother Peace been at the Cotton Club. We was there together, getting our swerve on. Let me see. Peace family. He said this should be taught in schools, but I understand why they don't. Absolutely, and we
Right.
should not expect them to. We shouldn't expect them to. Says, how are you, my sister? Yes, Sabito, Sabito. I got to give a shout out to our brother right here because when we repost our videos in different language subtitles, whether it be French, Portuguese, German, whatever, it is Brother Sabito who offers his talents to Thorough Black Talk. So we are greatly appreciated to you, brother. And he's on another part of the continent. He's on another part of the world right now. Where you at right now, Brother Sabito? You be all
Brother
over. I
Sabito.
don't know.
Peace to the whole family, Sister Farnessa, Brother Peace, and everybody else on the check-in. Since I'm having
So
issues with
family.
so I'm just gonna leave it on the avatar for the evening.
Okay. I was having some problems too, but we'll see. We'll see how I work it out. I got you, brother. So that was just some footage, you know, of our people in their life and time. We have to connect the dots. This is just the baby boomer generation right before. Now we go into the baby boomer generation, which led to the Gen X, which led to millennials and so on and so forth. But there is a break. And so tonight we hope to connect all those dots. Brother Tad, your thoughts on the footage you've seen so far? What are your thoughts on the fashion? How these people were communing with each other?
I loved it. I loved it. Like you said, when the brother was trying to holler at the sisters, he was a gentleman. He was dressed to the nine. He tipped his hat. There was no, yo, mom, what it do? Yo, you got a fatty. I like your bubble. Nah, it was none of that. There was a level of dignity that we had. And to your point, we understand why it's no longer like that. And we will unpack it, peel the layers back, and pinpoint the reason why we find ourselves in these states now, because of people with a lack of, let me not say a lack of knowledge, with the people with a proper understanding of who they are and what they come from, that has a direction. It's hard to deter them, and we understand what has happened to us because with our culture intact, we were able to thrive, as you show Harlem and Oklahoma and all the communities. That's because we weren't allowed to be a part of mainstream society. So with that, we had to rely on ourselves. You can't hold down the people that are self-reliant. So they had to make us dependent on them so they could steer the direction. They became the people in charge of our rewards and consequences. And it's so sad that we're struggling real hard to get back to that when we once had everything we say we need. You know, what this country is doing right now, even with our family in Colorado with the Freedom Acres Ranch, you know, same tactics, same tactics. You would think in a whole new millennium, over 100 years later, we still have to deal with these things. But my only point is that the world is ours. We are free to move about the world. We need to start really forging alliances and stop dividing ourselves with these little subgroups that we call within the Black experience, whether it's Muslim, Christian, Hebrew Israelite, ADOS, FBA, Caribbean, continental Africans. We have to come under one banner and move as a unified family because we're all catching hell from the same group. Even though this group that gives us hell are fractioned themselves, they still operate in uniformity. in terms of recognizing that this is literally a race. It is a competition for resources and domination. And we have to get back in the mindset. What we just witnessed within these black and white films is a people who was clear on what race and racism is and was and who created it. For those who may not know who created racism, for those who may have been asleep for the past few hundred years, black people created everything except racism. Racism was created by Karl Linnaeus and Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. Look them names up. They are the people who came up with the classification of the races. And they also use a scientific method called phrenology to identify the races. This is still being taught in college campuses. So when we look and say, why are black people in the conditions they are in, if we've created and done so much, just study these two people that I mentioned. Start from there. Because all black people that came to America weren't enslaved, and all white people that came to America were not free. This is a misnomer. This is misinformation. This is miseducation. People we once thought were quote unquote masters on the plantation, the overseers, were actually enslaved themselves. Remember, America was founded as a criminal enterprise by a bunch of criminals who were kicked out of their own country. Let's be clear. Racism and slavery is older than America itself. The lies that are constantly being taught, we have to scrub our brain of the misinformation. When we talk about Christopher Columbus, always be clear that Christopher Columbus has never stepped foot on what we call U.S. soil. He landed on the island of Hispaniola, which is now known as Haiti and Dominican Republic. Amerigo Vespucci had landed in the Florida Keys, and it's one of the reasons why it was named America. And for more information, please go read Dr. John Henry Clark's book, Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust, if you want more clarity. You can also Google Christopher Columbus memoirs, as well as Bishop Bartholomew de las Casas, who rode with Christopher Columbus and recorded much of what we're talking about as a firsthand eyewitness account. And I'll just step off my soapbox right now.
And there you have it, family. So, as a matter of fact, I have a free PDF copy of Dr. Clark's book. I'm going to post it on the Thorough Black Talk Facebook page later today or this evening, and then you guys can pick it up, at your leisure. Now, the next video we are going to show was filmed in 1968 of the black middle class. The video I'm going to show is from the channel Black of the Berry. I would encourage you to follow them if you can. Their link is in the description for this broadcast, so you'll be able to follow them. They have great library of documentaries that I think you will find rather interesting. So, thank you, Black of the Berry, for posting this video that we're going to show tonight. I want to read the description first so that you guys can get an understanding of what it is you're about to see. It says, the Negro middle class, torn between white goals and black needs, examined by William Graves and William Branch in a 90-minute NET produced episode, and enlists the narrating talents of outstanding actor Ossie Davis. The program notes that 5 million black Americans, 1 in 4, have attained middle class income, and that their market share is now $32 billion. Again, remember, this is 1968. But being middle class is not merely a matter of income, it is a question of behavior or aspirations, of respectability, and according to sociologist St. Clair Drake of Roosevelt University, it is here that the break occurs. Though many black people remain committed to the suburban, basically white aspiration, others have become affected by the Black Power movement. The conflict posed for black middle class are articulated by such spokespersons in this video as John H. Johnson, president of Johnson Publishing Company, Robert Johnson, editor of Jet Magazine, St. Clair Drake, Roosevelt University, Sociology Department, and author of The Black Metropolis. Ralph Featherstone of SNCC, Julian Bond, Georgia legislator, Bayard Rustin, director of the A. Philip Randolph Institute, Dr. Percy Julian, Chicago millionaire, and Dr. Nathan Wright, organizer of last summer's Newark Black Power Conference. The program notes the growing pride in one's African heritage, ranging from their hairstyles to art collections, and from the appreciation of soul food to a rejection of the television image and its Nordic standards of beauty. Mirroring the new cry, Black is Beautiful, is a new kind of religion which denounces the white nationalist drift of historical Christianity. This trend has been dramatized by recent urban riots, with which many members of the Black middle class are sympathetic. The film cites the personal experience of Horace Morris, associate director of the Urban League in Washington, D.C., and a former Syracuse University footballer. Morris, driving into Newark during the riots, was fired on by local police, who killed his stepfather and wounded his brother. Ralph Featherstone of SNCC contends that there is no black middle class. A social habit such as an evening of elegance hinders the struggle for modern general radicalism, says Featherstone. The viewpoint emerges most poignant in the case of Morris, associate director of the Urban League in Washington D.C. and former footballer at Syracuse University. This program depicts young adult African Americans, especially at the traditionally conservative school such as Howard University, as taking the forefront of the new militancy. This militancy takes its most severe form in the riots seen here briefly. Again, this was aired as NET Journal, episode 185 on April 29th, 1968, and as NET Journal, episode 248 on September 15th, 1969. Now, in the beginning of this piece, you're going to see a black man talk about his disconnection from anything black and anything African and his own cognitive dissonance. So don't say we said it. He's saying it. I don't know trouble.
The following program is from any educational television network.
I'd like to live in a tree-lined street. I'd like to own a home on the lake. I have a yacht and belong to a North Shore Yacht Club. I like to wear suits from Brooks Brothers. All Americans, and I am an American, we think this way. There's no other way to think. I can't think African. I can't think Irish. I can't think Norwegian. I have to think with the society in which I live, which is a white society. So their values are imposed on me, and I think this kind of way. I don't think of myself as being a Negro. Never until recently have I really been concerned that I am a Negro. I thought all the while that I was an American.
In fact, there was a very interesting commentary on this in Life magazine several years ago when they had the sit-ins on Route 40 to try to stamp out discrimination. And they had asked a lady there who ran just a hash joint almost, why she discriminated against all of these black people when some of them were diplomats from African nations. And her comment was simply that they all look like just plain run-of-the-mill niggas to her.
This is Robert Jones, age 38, native-born American. He holds down an important job, owns a yacht that sleeps 8, and vacations each summer on fashionable He, his wife, Marlene, and their 2 children live on a tree-lined suburban street just across the Hudson River from New York City. Bobby Jones, as his friends call him, is a graduate of New York University with a law degree from New York Law School. He and his family are amongst 5 million members of a unique and little-known group in the United States, the Negro middle class. Bobby Jones and his counterpart be found in every state of the Union. 1 out of every 4 Negro families can be said to be middle class today, which is better than twice the figure of only 2. Most are still on the lower middle income rungs in the $7,000 to $15,000 a year category, though others, such as Bobby Jones, do much better. This is not to say, however, that the millennium has come. According to the United States Department of Labor Statistics, Negro median income is still little better than half that of whites, and whites' income is increasing at a faster rate. Moreover, 1/10 of all white families now have incomes in excess of $15,000 a year. Only 1 in 40 Negro families does as well. But there are increasing numbers of Negroes whose incomes are rising as their qualifications multiply and racial barriers to their advancement slowly lessen.
What I'd like to do is to get a complete and thorough review of this to make sure that we have everything in there. And at the same time,
Bobby Jones, whose father was a post office worker in Boston, supervises a staff of 50, mostly whites.
in the model cities staffing and budget items, we have
Income from Roosevelt University in Chicago.
I tended to conceptualize class that way myself. One of the ways I like to think about it is this. Some years ago, when Horace Caton and I were working on Black Metropolis, we were suddenly struck by the fact that you could find 2 Negroes who worked in the stockyards as what we used to like to call cattle eviscerators, taking out the inside of the cattle as they came along on the assembly line. And let us assume that both of them were making about $400 a month. One comes home and on the way home stops by the local tavern, imbibes a good bit of alcohol. By the time he gets home, he's in a very bad mood. He knocks on the door and it isn't opened quickly. He yells up at his wife and she sticks her head out the window and curses him. And then everybody up and down the street begins to throw up the windows and look. She comes out, he beats her, and they finally get on in the house, and they both start taking their drinks, and the fight goes on. Now, the other man takes his 400, and he passes a bar, turning his head the other way, and when he arrives at home, his wife also doesn't open the door quickly enough, but he waits until he gets inside, and then the fight starts inside. And when he gets ready to beat her, he pulls down the shades to make sure that the neighbors don't see. And then having got that part of it over, they sit down at the kitchen table and decide how much of the money they're going to put aside for the educational fund for the kids and how much they're going to put in church next Sunday. And this is the end of the day. We call the second a middle class way of life and the first a lower class way of life. The point I was trying to make was they both might have the same amount of money, but the way in which they behave, the aspirations they have for themselves and their children differ. And therefore, money alone, as we would see it, doesn't make one middle class. Now, if you want to look at American society and levels, say an upper, middle, and a lower class. You might peg it this way. An upper class puts the emphasis on refinement, the middle class on respectability, and the lower class on survival.
Middle-class lifestyle, however, would be rather difficult to arrive at and to maintain were it not from economic basis that is more than minimal.
I've never really thought myself as middle class. I said I'm not trying to be facetious, but there are others, and I don't think that I can overlook these or also by saying they don't exist. Well, the fact that I have a job to go to every day, a responsibility to this job, I think is a basic difference because we're demonstrating for rights that have not a job, and for them this is most crucial because they can't feed their families, and I can feed mine. They can't call a paycheck, I can, and this gives a certain pride and respect to the individual that I don't think they can have.
What happens if a middle-class Negro loses his job?
Economically, he's no longer middle class. He's unemployed, and that's an interesting fact. This Negro middle class that we're talking about is a very, very precarious thing. Someone who came out of teaching, who can get a job perhaps with the Job Corps or with some other teaching-oriented kind of occupation, can go from $7,000 a year 1 year to $15,000 or $18,000 a year with some of the anti-poverty programs the next year. Of course, if he lives up to this $15,000 or $18,000 a year and his project is not refunded, he's no longer middle class.
Still, for those who customarily think of nearly all Negroes as being near the poverty level, the present picture in jobs, business, housing, and social activity within the Negro middle class is a striking one. Richard Clark, owner-manager of a New York personnel consultants firm, says he's in the business of creating instant middle-class Negroes by finding them white-collar jobs.
It's called a job opportunity.
So, just quickly, let's analyze this part, what we've seen. I think we got our brother Black on the check-in. What's up, Black?
Peace, brother Blacksmith.
Hold on. You got to unmute yourself, Black. There you go. One more time. Anyway, while Black figured that out on the check-in, Tad, what are your thoughts on this piece that you've seen? I mean, first, let's deal with the first gentleman in here in this piece, and he talks about having no connection to anything African, anything Black. He said he was an American. He thought like an American.
He thought a white man.
What'd you say, Tad?
He said he thought like a white man.
Yes.
No, he was a Negro, but he identifies as American. Hey, Sister Marcia, boy. Yeah. So, it only took me back to Dr. Carter G. Woodson's book, The Miseducation of the Negro.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, see, that's why we brother and sister, and how we're conditioned to think like everyone else and take on everyone else's identity except our own. However, in defense of the brother, to his point, he knows nothing about Africa. Most of this knowledge that you and I, Sister Marcia, Brother Blacksmith, and much of our audience have is from looking outside of our social paradigm of what the education system is. We sought it ourselves, and as Carter G. Woodson said, in life, man has two educations, one that's given to him and one he gives himself, and the latter is by far greater. So most of what we know is the education we've given ourselves, because we know the education that's given to us does not serve us, and it's not given to serve us. That's why we see in the 1920s the level of dignity we had, because we were separated from these folks. We were allowed to operate within our own communities, to which we kept our behaviors intact. And I like that one of the other dudes said, middle class, the class system is all about behaviors. And that's something that we really need to understand because we see it in hip hop, which is one of the biggest businesses we have as Black people in America. It's the quickest way we can get rich through this music and entertainment, right? You would think it would make us high class because now we're millionaires, almost instant millionaires, but our behaviors still dictate that we operate on a low level, that we are low class people with a bunch of money. However, this is done intentionally because these mad scientists that we call Urugu understands technology, the original computer known as the brain. They understand how to program that computer and deprogram that computer. So they programmed us into the Milky Way and deprogrammed us into from our African identity. So here we are, as we learned in school, that when two commands don't complement each other, it's called the syntax error, which in human form we call cognitive dissonance, where even when we're given the right information, we still don't function within that information. The brain is the original computer, and it only does what we tell it to do. If we give it the right information, we'll make the right choices. We give it the wrong information, we'll make the wrong choices. This is the value of Thorough Black Talk. We're here to give you the right information and not give you artificial intelligence, but give you natural divine intelligence. But I'm gonna step off my soapbox as we got our folks in the building. Peace, brother Blacksmith. Peace, sister Marcia. What you say? What you say?
I'm gonna go fast real quick because I didn't wasn't allowed to come on last week. Hey, Keisha, and to the panel as well. Last week I was trying so hard to stay in, and it just kept kicking me out. So my apologies for my part on not showing up last week, but it was a great show. Brother Tad, to what you're saying, very much so. Everything you said is on point and beautiful. I don't want to jump the gun, so I'm not going to talk about how we got to where we are pretty much nowadays. I'm going to let Sister Marcia introduce herself, and then we'll go from there. Peace, sis.
Peace and thank you, Brother Black. Welcome, family. How is everyone doing? It's been a minute. Last week, I also had some technical difficulties, so we're in the same ballpark, Brother Black. Mm-hmm. But I am sad that I'm pinging in a little late, and I missed the beginning of this video that you were showing, Sister Keisha, because it looked very interesting in terms of the dialogue of where we are now and where we were then, our mindsets then, and what it is now. And so I would definitely rewatch and commentate a little bit with more in-depth analysis at a later time. But thank you for having me on this show.
Yes, because we're going to have a part 2 to this because it's so broad that we had to break it up. It's just too much to cover in one segment. But I want you all to remember what you heard from the first gentleman, because you're going to see him later in a meeting with Dr. Clark as they talk about Black class and the Black struggle in this piece. But today we have people who still have that mindset that they are outside of who we are and are content with that. The problem is some of us vote these same folks into office, and then we wonder why we cannot progress. What is the mindset and the philosophy and the historical understanding of the persons that you are electing to represent you in your voice? That's what you have to always remember. So hold on, family. Bring part 2. Give me a second here. I gotta I did something wrong. Yeah, I go. I'm always doing something. Too many things at one time. You see, hold on, family. Here we go. Now you're gonna see how they party with one another. You're gonna take a good look into the boule. You're gonna hear a millionaire doctor talk about his encounter with or Caucasian. And hear his same commentary, hear the commentary that he makes about that incident, along with Mr. Morris, whose father was murdered by the Newark Police Department during the riots. So, and compare that to what you're hearing today when crimes of this nature take place against us. Hold on.
Opportunity Center, and we're about to get 150 Negro college graduates. Some are June 1967 graduates, and the other two-thirds experienced people who were disillusioned with the level of jobs that they hold. There are 120 companies who have in mind employment. I think it's an interesting paradox that at the time that people are concerned about race rioting and looting and burning and things of this kind, that over 750 to 1,000 Negroes will be marching into this place quietly, not protesting, not rioting, not burning, not looting, but looking for an economic chance in the mainstream of American life. In a manner of speaking, we're involved in a sort of a mass token acceptance kind of a thing.
Equality of job opportunity cannot be taken for granted, however, nor can promotions. Current median income for Negro college graduates is just under $6,000. The white graduate earns over $9,000. What of Negro-owned and operated businesses? Are they, as some observers charge, threatened with decline?
There are some that said that there are less or fewer Negro businesses today than there were 20 years ago. I think if we think in terms of large numbers in business, perhaps this may be true. But I think Negroes are engaged in bigger businesses. They are doing larger volumes of business. I think they are in more diversified businesses. I think all you have to do is read Ebony Magazine and see all the kinds of businesses those are in.
Governor Kerner, I'd like to know
I will be there. I remembered that I was supposed to go, so I will be there. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to tell them that I'll be there. Dear Jeff, this is just a note to tell you how sorry we are that you will be leaving the Home Office to take up your duties as Vice President.
The Johnson Publishing Company of Chicago, with gross advertising revenues running into the millions. It's 250 employees.
Get the boys ready for it.
Negro business in general, however, remains in the small business category. Discrimination by lenders, suppliers, and insurance companies often their success a precarious one, especially now that many larger white firms have recently discovered the $32 billion Negro market under their very noses. Aspirations among Negroes are often centered on better housing, to an extent which frequently outrivals those of their white counterparts. Atlanta, Georgia's flourishing Negro middle class is widely noted for its extensive and highly status-conscious new development areas, such as this one in the prestigious Collier Heights section, built and financed by local Negro businessmen. In the past, white banks traditionally turned down Negro loan applications. Eventually, black institutions pooled their resources and moved into the vacuum. Today, Atlanta white firms are belatedly trying to outbid black banks and black contractors for a share of one of the fastest growing markets in town. But whether they seek private houses or high-rise apartments, such as in these Chicago cooperatives, most Negro home seekers still find themselves barred from all but largely segregated areas. Are often trapped in substandard, overcrowded units, while such better housing as does become available is swamped with
Now notice, he said, they referred to all of these businesses. You had Amsterdam News, you had Johnson Publishing Company, you had these insurance companies, you had banks. were referred to as small business, right? Small business, local business. But today, it's still the same. I don't
Yes.
care how many black businesses they still refer to as small businesses or local businesses. The perception of black folks, no matter how much money you get, they will still abandon you when you try to escape and move over there with them. It's the same today. Nothing has changed. When we looked in the beginning of our program tonight, we saw black people with oil wells. How do we get from oil wells to begging for inclusion? How did that happen? Where was the mental breakdown? Well, Brother Tad already explained it. He already explained it. And so today, you wonder why we can't progress because we don't study our own DNA. We keep repeating the same patterns. I say often, my brother Ashe, if he was here, he would tell you, study the mistakes of history. It is your greatest weapon. It gives you the greatest foresight of how you must progress, even in your own personal lives, right? If something bad happens to you, you remember what happened to you so that it doesn't happen again. Why don't we have the same philosophy as it relates to politics, the education of our children, and how we progress in business? A lot of people you see all over social media get the bag, get money. That's all you got to worry about. Get the bag, get the money. But as I have said, Brother Tad has said, and we said on this platform, I don't care how much damn money you make. Unless you have a mechanism to protect it, they will take it from you. Kanye West, perfect example. I don't make these things up. I see the forest for the trees because I understand history. And if you understand history, it would avoid you making the same mistakes. Your thoughts, Sister Marcia, on what you've seen?
Um, the whole idea of small business, like you were saying, is the idea that we don't scale our business, right? We say we're going to be a black owned business and we're going to market to ourselves, and yet we don't market to everyone else. However, everyone else says, "Oh, I'm going to be a white business, or an Asian business." Let's stay with the Asian business, because the Asian business knows that he is going to market to everyone, and especially the class that, or the race of people that he was categorized under at one point and detached himself from, right? And as he detached himself from our collective group, he made his own strive and started giving us bad food, making us wear hair. And, I didn't want to front, I'm wearing hair, nails and all of these trinkets, because we fall prey to capitalism and what capitalism looks like, because we're not informed consumers. We don't understand the power of a dollar. Everyone else understands the power of the dollar, but we understand the power of the dollar in terms of what we have in our hands right now. Oh, I have a computer, I have money. But that's not money. That's just being able to spend to acquire something. But money is being able to get my interests met. When I'm meeting with a politician, when I'm meeting with someone is listening to me because they know that my dollars is backing them for them to make sure that I get my investment in return. We don't understand that investment in return. And once we get to that point, we will scale this, right? We will scale this in miraculous ways, the same way we scaled when we came out of Reconstruction. But we will also learn that we need to understand how to protect ourselves and protect our communities without saying, "Oh yeah, so I went to the Army and the Navy and they said A, B, C, and D." A, B, C, and D doesn't have a reflection on our community. This is the thing that we need to start understanding. What does A, B, C, D and E mean to our community? How do we translate that, transform that for the needs of our community? Because we haven't done that yet. And that's why we continue to meet these roadblocks. And we can get out of it as long as we put our mindsets to it.
Understood. Brother Tad.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I agree with Sister Marcia, and I'm going to go a couple of steps back into the terms. You know, I like to pick apart the language. To your
Yes,
point
sir.
about it's still Black businesses still being recognized as small businesses. And it's just how in this Eurocentric lexicon, how everything we do is minimized, even to the point that though we're the majority on the planet, they'll still call us the minority. Even when you really put the numbers on the table, we actually are the majority here. But as African Americans, they identify us as 13%, but they leave out the Black Latinos and others. They leave out some of our Caribbean brothers and sisters and our continental Africans when they give us the numbers. So though we outnumber them, they'll call us a minority. Whatever we do, they'll call it small. And we've adopted that lexicon because we know when we talk to each other and we try to minimize it, oh, I hear you doing your little thing over there.
Your
Starting
little
a
business.
business, you with your little girlfriend. We minimize it. But that's the psychosis that we picked up from those who has miseducated us. So it's now part of our culture without us knowing it, because we do things and don't understand why we do it, because we don't seek knowledge of self, because they have us so busy trying to survive with our little 9-to-5s and our little businesses and all of these things that we're being left in the dust. And we don't even understand when these things started. We think these things just started with us, and these been going on for generations. In fact, millennia now. And with the New World Order, going back to the beginning of my development before I pass it on to Brother Blacksmith, I realized what the Europeans' fear was, because most of the people that wrote books on the New World Order was always talking about the devil and Satan and doing Bible quotes and scriptures. And what it is, as we see right now, which we know to be true, is a wealth transfer. The WASP were afraid of this. Many of the people who understand the New World Order, many people in high places were using Kemetic teachings to tap into a spiritual power that many of us have forgot about, that inherently belongs to us as African people. That's why the Anglo-Saxons was mad at other white people who was joining Masonic lodges, because they understood that the people in the Masonic lodges were practicing African spiritual system teachings. And though they didn't have it 100% down packed, they had some sense of how to harness this spiritual power that resides within all of us, that we can make manifest anything that we want. It's like our Black folks, how we'll just talk about somebody and say, I just spoke you up. We'll say somebody's name and they'll literally walk in. That's a power that we have to get reacquainted with, and many of us are tapping back into, particularly our children who are becoming millionaires with a cell phone. Literally with a cell phone. They're not looking for 9-to-5s, going to nobody college for what? Many of them are saying, I'm not going to school for 4 years to come out in debt. Are you kidding me? When I could start from right now, and that money I'd have spent on college, I could be investing in myself, investing in skills, because tech is the new wave. Tech is the wave of the future. We're on the cusp of a new industrial revolution, which is technology, and we do have to get acquainted and acclimated to it. And if not us, we have to prepare our children to, but not just get them prepared for the new booming industry that's coming, but also in proper behavior of integrity and discipline, so that they won't be rich people that still operate in low class and low level vibration and frequencies. So again, we have to change our language, stop minimizing everything we do and everything we say, and realize that we are great people and we're divine by design. The Creator made us this way. And Public Enemy told you, it's a fear of a Black planet. And our time is coming, as long as we keep these conversations going and we start sharing these videos and having these conversations with our folks that don't know, because it makes no sense to keep having these conversations with those that do know. We just preaching to the choir. We need to start and like the enemy. But I'm gonna pass the mic and get off my soapbox. Brother Blacksmith.
Yeah, yo, big up to what you just said, brother, man. And I literally mean that. So if you heard the words, I said big up.
No doubt.
Real talk.
Oh, not
Real
little.
talk.
Big up. Big up. Big T Magwan. You done know.
Real talk though. You know what I'm saying? Yo, check this out. They know we did it all already. When during the Crusades, when the Europeans was killing each other before they figured out, okay, let's just go over yonder over there and get them black folk all over that continent called Africa down there. We devised a system of economy where Mansa Musa went to the Middle East and broke the whole economy of the whole Middle East when he flooded the market with gold and started the gold standard as what we know today, with real money being gold, precious metal, silver, platinum, what have you, diamonds, and on and on and on. We already did it all, bro. It ain't nothing. Out of slavery was the best time we had as a people. And when I say that, I'm talking about the world collective. I'm not talking about African Americans, ADOS, Caribbean, African, continental, whatever. I'm talking about as a whole. After that, as a whole, especially on this side of the world, after that, it was when we had time to become ourselves. And then they started looking like, oh man, look at them. They coming up. In every movie that you see, though I don't want to quote movies or want y'all to go refer to these movies as a historic value, but in every movie, you always see them crackers being real jealous of what we got out of slavery. Rosewood, Black Oklahoma, Tulsa, whatever you want to call it, Black Wall Street, Princeton, North Carolina, which was about 20, 25 years ago when they flooded it. Alton used to talk about that all the, the Honorable Attorney Alton Maddox used to talk about that all the time. I was going to UAM around the time when Princeton got flooded, which is in North Carolina, all black town. So we already did it all. And like you said, where I'm going to get in with what you said, Tad, we're going to do it again, and it's going to be very soon. And I've been coming on this show for just over a year now, and I've been saying that. So knowing the cosmos in the annals of time, a year and a half is nothing. My lifetime and all of ours combined is nothing when it comes to the annals of time. And we're going to live forever because the technology for us to live 1,000 years has been created a long time ago. This is possibly why they killed Tesla. Because maybe he got to a point where he was saying, I'm going to release this information. They were like, okay, well, we need to shut him down, kill him, take his stuff and suppress it so that we can use it and let everybody else, even including poor white folk. And when I say poor white folk, I'm not talking about white millionaires. I'm talking about anybody who ain't in that elite class that we know what I mean when I say elite. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic back to Sister Keisha.
Again, family, it's about manifesting your own reality, right? If you manifest yourself to be of greatness, then you are of greatness. It's all in the numbers. You know, one thing I know for sure. Now, I'm no mathematician, but anyway, I do know everything is in the numbers, zeros and ones. You can manifest your own reality. The problem is we have the problem of running a mouth. We tell everything. You can't tell everything that you're doing. You just got to do what you do. Don't beg to be included into other things. Figure out how you can manifest a life on this planet without others. How would you do it without others? So anyway, let's continue, family, because we're running down with time. Hold on. Here we go.
Children. No matter where they live or with whom they work, when it comes to social activity, most Negro throws of society within a society, largely paralleling but separate from the various modes of social structure found among white. This World of Astoria Debutante Cotillion, given semi-annually by the New York chapter of a leading Negro women's club called girlfriends, is virtually identical to held in white groups, save for color.
The white cotillions, they have their junior leagues. Of course, you know there is no colored junior league. Well, the Girlfriends is a very friendly group of girls. They do charitable work, civic work, and it's a social.
Hold on. Didn't he have a show on TV entitled Girlfriends?
Yep.
Okay, I thought it was just me. Go ahead.
Group. I have a lot of, and I think the ones that I have, they like me as me, and they like to work along with me. But I don't think that they want to particularly invite me to their homes, to their parties, which is perfectly all right with me. And you wouldn't want to go. Oh. I mean, their friends and I probably wouldn't have anything in common, and we probably would. We, we meet together on certain basis, but I don't expect to be invited to their parties, and I'm sure they wouldn't enjoy coming to mine.
In recent years, however, there has been some increase in integrated social affairs, such as at the annual Evening of Elegance held last summer at Mrs. Sidney Poitier's Westchester estate. Invited guests paid $60 per couple for an elaborate evening of cocktails, dining, and dancing.
I think that many people in this country who are white, they come in contact with Negroes through advisory boards and benefit committees, and this in itself brings about a certain amount of communication. People can sit down over a cocktail and talk about the world's problems. This in itself is a form of dovetailing into society, into the mainstream. These are people who are called upon to contribute to every cause, to every organization, to every social agency. $100 a ticket for this, $200 for that, for a couple to go somewhere for the benefit of someone else. The entire involvement of these groups involves participation and giving of themselves, of their money, of their time to those less fortunate than they. In this respect, yes, there is a Negro society.
Man, when I take my family on a vacation, we want to relax. We don't want any problems with prejudiced white folks. So we go where we know we won't be bothered.
That may be down home to visit the family, up to Canada or Cape Cod, or even abroad to Europe or Africa. One popular vacation spot among Negroes is the resort town of Oak Bluff, Massachusetts, situated on Martha's Vineyard, an island just off Cape Cod. For fun and relaxation, thousands journey here each summer from all over the country, forming a sizable Negro colony which gets along with, but keeps somewhat aloof from, local and vacationing whites. Doctors, teachers, and other professionals are prominent, and many have bought and maintained summer homes for their wives and children.
Okay, guys, there.
Now, this place that you guys are seeing them go on vacation was a hot spot for African Americans on Martha's Vineyard called Oak Bluff. There were two places where black elite vacation. That was Oaks Bluff on Martha's Vineyard and Sag Harbor in New York. So this is just footage of that.
Weekend parties at Sag Harbor on New York's Long Island are a specialty of Eastern club and fraternal groups. Still barred from membership at most country clubs and disgusted that it includes at resort hotels in the Catskills, Miami Beach, and other holiday spots. Some club members fly into such private parties from other cities. Not all Negroes are pleased with the Negro middle class, however.
In my mind, there is no black middle class. It's impossible for it to exist in this country. We have those who aspire to be middle class. And to that group, I would say that they have almost totally, 99% negligent in their response to the struggles of the masses of black people in this country, and that they have, in many instances, in fact, hindered that struggle by moderating the genuine and legitimism of the masses.
White-collar Negroes today sometimes find themselves under attack from within their own ranks. Last summer's evening of Ellis was harshly criticized in some quarters, particularly since it took place only 2 nights after the new riots. Observers sensed an uneasiness on the part of some guests. Vassal Thomas, organizer of the affair, gives his own assessment.
This is completely social even. It's not a part of any civil rights organization. We don't propose to. We don't have speeches politically, civil rights, or any other type of controversy.
And yet, in your way, you do make a contribution in that.
Completely in sympathy with it. Completely in sympathy with it. But I certainly dare not to disrupt the beauty of the evening of elegance. We have so many charming and responsible ladies and gentlemen here tonight, and I thought certainly that I could not expect the public to come to an affair and were done for one or another worthy cause. And I might say that I'm delighted that the Urban League of Greater New York has permitted me to use their fabulous name. We choose a certain organization or a certain charity each year, and after it has been chosen, we work like the dickens to try to bring in some sort of support. But the evening itself is so lavishly done, there's so much money put into the promotion of the evening of elegance that there isn't too much going to the particular charity that has been chosen.
Though other ethnic groups also have their class structures, sensitive Negroes find themselves caught in an awkward dilemma between desire's usual middle-class behavior on the one hand and ever-present reminders of their less fortunate brothers on the other. The soul-searching goes on.
I guess it's clear to see now that the Negro who is truly struggling looks askance at us. They are the upper middle class or the middle class. They don't understand our problems. We don't need them. They're of a dying era. The Roy Wilkins and the Whitney Youngs and the Philip Randolph, possibly. We don't understand, and they don't understand. I don't know where it's going to lead to. For instance, myself, I'm born and reared in New York in a kind of a middle-class structure. Never suffered too terribly. Went to integrated schools, got education, school system, college education. 17, I dated white girls. There was some displeasure at it, but I did it, and I had no guilt about it. For some reason or the other, I never associated myself with the welfare recipient, the unemployed person. And now I realize that these are my people. I'll do something for them or with them, but yet I haven't. So that, I think, is where the guilt comes in. I have empathy for my people, but yet in my middle class value, I still kind of think of them as those people. And I'm aware of it, and I think a lot of people in my particular class, if you will, is aware of it, but we're reluctant. We are just imbued with this white middle class value, where we think, I take the position that these people have been denied, and I continue to say these people. Notice that I continue to say these people, and like I'm not one of them, when in fact I am one of them. I take the position now that I should help. I should do what I can. I have begun to protest. I will now picket. I will now speak out with my white counterpart about the injustices that have occurred to my people. When before, say 15 years ago, I kind of behaved like it didn't exist. But now when I read, when it's brought to the front about housing and about job discrimination, I realize now that this did exist when I was younger, but I was just oblivious to it. I didn't think as a Negro. But now I'm thinking, and I think more people are thinking as Negro.
While the gap still exists, there are those from both groups who realize the necessity of bridging it, such as this candid committee meeting of HARU, Harlem's anti-poverty agency.
Agree wholeheartedly with the spirit of what Brother Kirby has said. I must point out this for you, though, to us. Let's not make the mistake of confusing staff availability with what CDA should provide. Now, the reason we pushed, and I want that to really be pushed, we'll be in Albany tomorrow, so somebody will have to push it here, maybe you, Madam Chairman, CDA to give us the money so he can staff your program so that you'll have staff you can depend on.
Publicist Ophir Dukes.
Okay, so now this same man from the beginning, now all of a sudden want to identify. Now he's realizing the error of his ways. Now he sees a different light. But again, it is folks like these who are in these rooms organizing, claiming to speak for you. This is one of the reasons why you have to be in certain places as well. Two, he said he still, even though he knows it's an issue, can't help referring to his other brothers and sisters as those people. A disconnect. We face the same things today. And this is why we can't progress politically or socially. What is the mindset of these people who claim to be organizing on your behalf? Right? Do we have a historical record of their behaviors, of this? Or because they speak a particular lingo, we fall right in line with them. We fall right in line. And then what we need get compromised and other folks get what they need. So I see we got our brother Ashe on the check-in. Ashe, are you good?
He probably going through what I went through when I tried to come in.
Yeah, I see. He'll figure it out. I see. He can figure it out. He's more technically inclined than we are, so he can figure it out. Brother Tad, your thoughts on that piece?
Yeah, to the point you just made, we're suffering from those political decisions right now, with all of our hard-earned tax dollars going to Ukraine and going to the migrants, while here regular black folks is just fighting to keep their regular jobs. You know, all the cotton is picked. We're no longer needed, and they're trying to replace us. And those who subconsciously know that we're being replaced are trying to identify and acting as a pick me or keep me around, boss, keep me around. My size be good. I ain't one of them. I was a good Negro. And though they might not say it verbally, they say it with their with their behavior, and we know actions speak louder than words. So many people can say that they're for us, but their behavior and decisions always show you exactly who they are and who they go for. Moving forward, the whole Democratic Party, look at what Biden has done to us, and we don't see anything he's done for us. However, so many groups are getting set aside. We heard them say that with Obama. Say, well, Obama can't do. He's the president of everybody, not just us. He can't just do for black people. That's illegal. Though he did just for LGBTQIA LMNOP. He did just for Spanish migrants. He did just for other groups. But somehow there's laws on the books, specifically and particularly for us, that are not being acknowledged. Even when we talk about the 40 acres and the mule, that is not up for debate. That was an agreement that just wasn't fulfilled. This government has a contractual obligation to us that's not being met. But because we don't know, because we're being misinformed by those outside of our community and group, we believe what they're saying, as opposed to watching what they're doing. Actions speak louder than words. So even with the brother who think he's helping them, he better realize he is one of them and get his head in the game. Racism is a team sport. It is not golf. It is a team sport. We either win as a team or we lose as a team. The term race means competition. Competition for what? Competition for resources, competition for influence and control of society, competition to control the destiny and the future of your people. That's what a race is. It's a competition. And we kind of, we ain't in the top 3 right now. So let's get our head in the game. We're gonna have to huddle or something, come up with a real game plan to win again. But I digress, sis. I don't want to get too deep into it. I want to give somebody else a little chance to chime in on it.
Yes, indeed. Brother Ashe, the fire guard, is in the building. What's good, Ashe?
Peace.
Word, family. Yo, Keisha always got the gems, man. That video is fire. You got to send that video. That video is fire. I got to watch that. I like watching old vintage stuff. I watch all kind of, I watch black and white. I watch films. I watch musicals, all that old stuff. But I ain't watching no singing in the real black and white vintage joint that we need to be watching. You know what I'm saying? This is history and we still in. Got that, but y'all in Black History Month, y'all. I don't know if y'all remember. Y'all might have forgot, but this is still February. It's still Black History Month, okay? So Keisha is rightfully bringing the history with the videos, man. But I just want to say it's very interesting that we having this conversation about what the last clip you put with the black brother that because when I'm watching the video, the first
I think you're breaking up, Ashe.
Yeah.
Hold on. You might got to come out and go back in, Ashe.
All right, let me see what's going on.
Yeah.
Hold up.
All right. Sister Marcia, your thoughts?
So on the standpoint, again, classic, and I think this was a PBS special or something at one point.
I don't know if it was on PBS, but it was a national education broadcast.
I sort of,
yes, I'm not sure.
I sort of remember, the old people in my house watching it on the black and white TV, so it all makes sense to me. But one of the issues that we still face today in organization is funding organizations, right? And the man is saying that, well, if we bring X, Y, and Z to attention, we can help fund the organizations. And this is one of our continual problems with organizing, right? Because no one wants to donate. And then even if they donate, they just donate and walk away, but they're not donating to staff someone. Because in order for things to happen, you have to staff people, or you're working with a group of people who are working their own jobs their own families and their own everything, and yet want you to operate as a Fortune 500 organization when there is no support. And so to sit there and say that we were facing that problem 60 years ago, we are still facing this problem today. And I say this as a small little, here we go with my little business, right? In my little business with African on the Rise, people need bills to be paid. And you can't think that you're going to get all of these fabulous works without paying people, or thinking people are going to get burnt out and not want to do the work anymore. There has to be a way that our community understands. You go to work, you're getting paid, you're getting a service for your children. If you value your children enough, you will be able to fund the service. I think there is some type of disconnect in valuing service that is being brought to our community to bridge that gap. We could make a lot of headways if people understand that you have to fund what you believe in, and you have to believe in what is being presented.
Facts. You got to finance your own freedom. One of the things that they talked about in this clip is how it was important for the Black business class to fund the movement, the Black Power movement. And we've said this here on this program many times. That's the business class responsibility in any society, right? When you look at this government and the two dominant political parties, white folks fund that. They make sure it stays afloat. You got chapters, you got committee seats, you got all the spokespersons, lawyers, research specialists, historians. This is why these two dominant parties are just that. And we give too much of ourselves into it, hoping, wishing, and praying for change that is never going to come because it's not the philosophy of those parties. And listen, I'm the firm believer that if you punch me in my face, you can't come to me for no help. You can't come to me for help if you punch me in my face. So we, as Black folks, engaging with these two parties that enslaved our ancestors, how do we expect to have good luck in that fight? I just want to know. Somebody explain that to me. That's just like you hanging out with the rapist who raped your mother. It just don't make no sense to me, and saying, well, maybe if we can work within the rapist system, we can stop them from raping. That's not the psychology of a rapist. You can't do that. So for us, I hope it's an eye-opening and a wake-up call. Two, notice they didn't talk about what we see now. See, on social media now, you have this whole snitch culture, right? So if Marcia can't be the head, then I'm bringing her down. I'm bringing her down. We're going to dox her and all kind of stuff. Social media now is the new snitch. I mean, the feds is having a ball because, y'all do too much. Y'all do too much.
Word.
I hope we can change all of that. I think we got Shay back in. I think we got Shay.
Sis?
Go ahead.
Shay, 1 second, please, brother. Did you see the report of the snitching files? How much they're paying a snitch salary for the year? Did I share that with you? Can she hear me?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
I can hear you both. I hear Sister Marcia and Brother.
Okay.
Go ahead, Marcia. I don't want to cut you with it. Go ahead, finish what you're saying.
No, it's very interesting as we're talking about snitch, and they just pulled up a snitch file of saying how much a snitch is getting paid per state. And New York State, they're paying them $86K. So who wants to snitch on somebody? because the money is there. And as long as they keep funding ideas like that, people will run to it because they know that we ourselves aren't going to support them and their livelihoods, right? I'm not saying we need to supply someone with 80K, but we need to be able to supply someone with at least knowing that their electricity is going to be on for the year. You know, if we can't do that much, we're failing as organizations. Ashe, the floor is yours, my brother.
Yo, that's like $1,500 a week too.
Hey, listen, let me speak to that real quick. I'm not going to take time. The people that they snitching on is targeted individuals like myself and maybe one or two of you, because this is what they do. Who they snitching on? Since we're talking about snitches, they're not snitching on dudes robbing banks and, you know, kidnapping and murdering people.
Right.
Or you got those too, but that's usually a conspiracy. And then it's like, well, if you testify against him, you'll get less time because you was a conspiracy with him or her. I'm done. Go ahead. Ashe, take
it. Something is tripping with the stream, y'all. But anyway, I got cut out that in the clip Keisha was playing, right? It had, I don't know if y'all peeped that, but it was the you know, fraternity, like the whole boule and all of that. You could see all of that from the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? And to the blind eye, it might seem like, yo, this is great. Black people is doing this, black people is doing that. But then behind the scenes, you got this dude talking about, I'm disconnected. I don't even feel like I'm the same as them. But I wanted to add to that and say it's very interesting because it's funny how history repeats itself, because right now you have this conversation where, you know, we're in the information age and so-called you got the quote woke conscious people in mainstream now. You know what I'm saying? Where you got like rappers and all of these celebrities that are saying that they're trying to do some good for our people. But at the same time, the conversation is happening where it's like these people are saying, yo, you can't go back to the hood. Once you leave the hood, you can never go back. That's what they promoting, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking like, hold up, there's a huge ass disconnect again. Because when we got these people like T.I. and all of these other fake leaders that's coming out now, all of a sudden they're about consciousness or whatever. But then they also telling people that, oh, you can't go back to the hood. Once you make it out the hood, you got to leave and move away and all of that. It's a contradiction, you know, but it's very interesting because tomorrow is the day, tomorrow's Huey P. Newton's birthday. One of the founders of the Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton. So when they was doing it, when they was policing the police, when they was providing food and free meals for people in the community, giving back to the hood, when they was making sure nobody was getting abused, when they was actually reading the law and the goddamn penal codes to the police, doing all of these goddamn things to support the hood, they was amongst the hood. They was still in the hood. So that's a prime example how you can do things to affect positive change in the hood and still be in the hood. But the problem is we don't study history, and then the only history we get is this polished, watered, whitewashed Black history. We get a whitewashed version of Black history that don't teach you about the real movers and shakers that was in the hood with the people, moving amongst them. And let's be very clear. We all know on this platform that you can't be a leader unless you amongst the people. You can't say that you're a general unless you've been through a war and you in. If you're not frontline with your army, you're not a general. That's not how it goes. You can't say, oh, I'm a leader and I'm gonna tell you to do this and you thing of it.
Oh, Ashe, you breaking up again. Say that again, you broke up.
Yeah, they don't want y'all to hear this tonight.
The jewels are dropping tonight.
I'm saying to all of these people that want to say people, but they middle class or upper higher black people and they want to act like they for us, but they ain't never been people. You know what I'm saying? To see the people that really want to work, want to have drive and have a bright future for themselves, but can't because.
You got cut. You got cut again, Vache. You freezing up.
They do not want to hear these jewels.
I know they don't want to let the fire guard go.
My goodness. But to one of Ashe's points, if he's here or not here, you know, back in the 70s and the 80s, you know, I'm a little tot, so I don't really know what I don't know. But that whole narrative of leave your community, you went to college, you can't stay here no more, you can't be amongst these kind of people, you have to go somewhere else. It's been ruminating since I was a little tot. You know, you're going to college, okay, after college you don't come back home. This is not a today thing. This has been ruminating in our community for a long time, and it's just transforming in different ways. And this is just another way of removing everyone from the hood, because the same way that they did on the continent, if you no longer have doctors and lawyers and nurses, people to care for your community, guess what? Your community falls. So they did that when they removed our great kings and our great engineers from the continent. Those were the first people that they took away. And they did that purposefully. So purposefully, by design, they're making you think that you need to be away from the people that raised you, the people that care for you, because they don't want you to have that coalition and that love that makes you want to create better things for your race. But keep going, brothers and sisters.
Facts. And again, family, the link is in the chat if y'all want to join us for a minute before we log off. Go ahead, brother Ashe.
Oh no, this brother Tab. Real quick, do you have the PDF of the Miseducation of the Negro? Because to brother Ashe's point, there's a chapter in the book called "The Educated Negro Leaves the Masses," which covers the point. That's everybody.
I think I do have a PDF of that. Also, I'm going to look at my library later on this evening, right, and if I do, I'm definitely going to post it.
My copy right here.
That's right.
Now turn to the chapter "The Educated Negro Leaves the Masses," because if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Carter G. Woodson wrote that book around the time of these videos that we're seeing in the early turn of the century.
Yeah, right. In the 30s, I believe.
Sister Pat, she said, Dr. Julia here said, don't mistake black leaders for leading blacks. It's funny you mentioned Dr. Julia here. Peace be upon her. Dr. Nathan here is in this piece. Dr. Nathan here is in this piece. And we'll see him next week, along with Dr. Clark, as we move into the more radical phase and what's happening there. Didn't mean to cut you. Go ahead. She said, now you can't afford to leave the hood. But
not
again,
if you want.
How do we go from oil wells to looking for inclusion to separation, self-separation? Is this the effect of a rabbit-proof fence type thing?
Can I take that, Keisha?
Go ahead.
Okay. So slavery officially ended in 1865, correct? I'm going to go in 20-year phases. Okay, roughly from 1865 to 1885 was the Reconstruction period, if you will. 1884, 1885, we had the Berlin Conference, correct? Yes. Okay, so like how the 70s was to the civil rights era, when we were fighting for real with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King leading the front for the most part at that time. There's always a dichotomy: Christian, Muslim. Light skin, dark skin, tall, short, young, old, blah blah blah. All the dichotomies you want to think of. When we go back into 1884, 85, when the Europeans decided how they were going to carve out Africa per se, they also included the parts of the Caribbean and South America that, even though they were colonized, they restructured the way they thought and made it about commerce and slave wages as opposed to outright chattel slavery and so on and so forth. So inside of that, with those free blacks and those slaves who were educated or smart enough to pick up and then start doing what we did, you got to about the 1920s, and where that book that was that you always talked about before, Keisha, about all the hangings that happened in this, especially for the most part in the South, but a lot in the North that that people don't acknowledge for the most part. That started happening, and inside of that started the migration. So up north from most of the southern states to New York, Chicago, Detroit, all of the northern cities that started, being known for work when World War I started, and all the white men were either working in the factories, and then they had to go to war because they got drafted. So now we're in about 1930, 1940s with World War II, and that happened again. So more migration with northward. And then that started separating families in the close-knit culture that we had, and that dichotomy of Southern dudes coming up to New York, like when Malcolm was in that scene in the movie where he busted dude in the face because he was a country bumpkin, he wasn't going to do nothing when he was woofing. Okay, so now we get to that point. Now we're in 1940s, 1950s. And now the black family is becoming separated because now we got a whole bunch of people that are from the young generation up north working and trying to make it, and Big Mama down south, in the big house and blah, 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 and so on and so on. And then you started introducing drugs into the mix. So any black neighborhood, Harlem probably more specific, and maybe South Central LA, and then the South Side of Chicago started being known as drug neighborhoods. And that started the separation. Then we get to the 60s. And then the movie Claudine explains all of what I just said. And now the separation from the man from the house, because before the 1960s, the black man and woman were the most married, or at least together, whether they were living shacking. It was a shame thing for us to shack up back then. If you were living together or even screwing together, and your girl's still living at home while you trying to make it out there in the job scene, it was considered shameful. Marry that woman, make her an honest woman, give her your last name, and so your children can have that name. We no longer hold on to those values. So that was just a snapshot through that real quick. Hopefully that explains some, and then you can research the rest.
Thank you. Perfectly explained, Brother Black. Brother Ashe, did he get back in here? I can't see on the bottom.
No, he's not.
All right.
Nah.
In the meantime, we'll bring in Brother Black Magus for a quick chat. What's up, Brother Black Magus? What's good with you? Black Magus, I need you to open your mic.
Keisha, when I tried to come in the first time, the screen froze. I could see everything. And I think that's what's happening with them. The first time is freezing, and then they can come back in. Hopefully I should get back in too. I'm going to put myself on mute.
Okay. He said, quick question, with the Great Reset in play, what do you think is going to take for the masses of black people to wake up? Anybody want to take that?
I'll say, unfortunately, the masses aren't going to wake up. It's going to be a new paradigm, but those of us that know, we're just going to have to be the example. It's going to be a small group of us, and in a generation or two, they'll start following suit. Once they realize that they're on a sinking ship and see that we're building a yacht, a luxury cruiser, to get about this place, because our mind is expanding beyond these borders. Most people can't think outside of their neighborhood, let alone across the globe. And as we know, there's opportunities to build in the Caribbean and on the continent, and even some parts of Europe. In fact, shoot, some whole parts of some countries in Europe are now up for sale. We see cities in Italy are now up for sale. We see that financial literacy is now a big part of our culture and conversation. When you look at other podcasts like Earn Your Leisure and what's the other ones? You know, there's another one that I like, Social Proof, and a few others that are making money our focus now. Because as I said before, as I constantly say, we talk about freedom, but we have to identify what that freedom looks like for us. And we know, as sure enough as we talk about politics and changing laws, as Sister Marcia said, there needs to be some type of war chest. People have to be compensated for their efforts. It's not that we don't want to do the work, but now we're living in reality. You know, a lot of times we're taking the old model from during our enslavement, where biscuits and hush puppies was payment. Here, you know, you want to help free us. Here, take these biscuits and you know, so y'all can eat on the Underground Railroad. But we beyond that now. That level of payment doesn't work. You can't take the biscuits to the landlord.
Ashe.
As crazy as it sounds, that's the reality of it. Some of us just want to say we've been able to stand with the scholars and walk with these freedom fighters, but that don't pay the bills. That doesn't feed your family. That doesn't keep you warm in these cold winters. We got to a reality. And that's why I constantly say I don't pledge to be a poor righteous teacher. Only poor righteous teachers I'm listening to is the rap group. We really have to be for real about what we're dealing with.
Yes.
And it got to be more than guts and glories. That's why I appreciate all organizations that compensate the speakers and the people who come to work or even give opportunities to make money. Because let's say you don't have the money, but at least point me in a direction or put in a good word for me to get some money. You know, because we still, as sure as we talk about taking care of Black people, I live with a Black family. I've created Black children. I'm responsible for Black people that share my blood. I need to take care of them before I take care of anybody. So if you want to help Black people, help me help my family. And then we be on the right road. But I'm going to step off my soapbox.
That's what I'm talking about. My brother, keep it 100. I want to show this clip. It's just a minute and a half long, but it goes to something what Brother Black said. You know, here on Thorough Black Talk, we like to give y'all the great scholars. So here is Dr. Chancellor Williams, peace be upon him, telling you how the government tricks Black people by teaching them to be down with the end thing. Check this out.
The idea called, if all of the things you say are true, if African had such civilizations,
Is it just on my end or we having some audio difficulties?
After theirs were,
I think we're having some. Oh, here we go.
And so forth. And so this is had this great system of building. Now, how did they fall? They fell when it began to decline internally, and when the forces, the external forces, over centuries of effort, finally gained the day. These nations had laws, strict laws, barring foreigners from coming to the interior. They're the same system of gradually settling around the borders, that is foreign traders, and supposed to be traders, but most of them were geographers and others representing foreign, would establish little trading posts, just ask for permission to start trading posts on the border. We don't want to come in, we don't come in, we just want to do business with you. We want to sell you what we have, we want to buy some of what you have. Well, the Africans are great traders, always great traders. So that was one of the weaknesses. They allowed them to settle along the borders, one thing. The second thing that happened, and this went on, as I point out in the destruction, for several thousand years before the certain countries were finally taken. And when they were taken, like Egypt, look how many times Egypt was taken and retaken.
You say blacks gave up Egypt. Are you saying the Egyptians were black?
Of course, Egyptians were black. The name comes from the name itself as an origin in the name of.
So year after year, century after century, they've always had an attack on us. It's never going
yet
to
they
stop,
still do.
and they still do. It's never going to stop until we stop it. It's just like any
Right.
other bully. In order to get a bully off your back, you got to fight and deal with that bully. You can't work with the bully, you can't plead with the bully, and you can't beg the bully. You have to stand up, chest to chest, toe to toe, and fight that bully and beat the bully down. So you can keep wishing, hoping, and praying that your political structure will do right by you. History tells us that it's never going to be that way. So we're coming down to the end, family. We're going to give our final thoughts and commentary. We're going to be up out of here. Sister Marcia, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts is if we want to see a better tomorrow, we invest in our children now. They are our future. You know, we're not leaving here, but we need to be great jednas to these little people, the ones that we can help make sure and stabilize. That's where we put all investment in. Let's do better than our elders in terms of investing in us. So to prepare us for these times, let's prepare them for the future. Let's continue to work together, to build together, and make sure that our people thrive beyond the world's imagination. We did it. We did it with the pyramids. We did it in Reconstruction. And it is our time to reclaim what was stolen from us. So let's keep it thorough. Let's keep it black. And let's keep it moving. Thank
Yes,
you for
ma'am.
having me.
Shout out to Africans on the Rise. You got to give your organization a shout out. Africans on the Rise. I can't wait for the next hiking trip. If you want to be down with us, inbox me, and the next time it goes down, I'll let you know. Before we move to Brother Black to close out, quick, this weekend, February 25th, 11 to 5 p.m. is going down in Brooklyn, baby. MS Keeper holding an event, sports, wellness, and fitness for girls, double dutch, stretching, basketball, healthy cooking, self-defense, Zumba, yoga, volleyball. It's going down, soccer, everything. So come out Saturday, February 25th. That's next weekend, February 25th at 127 Pennsylvania Avenue in Brooklyn. That's 127 Pennsylvania Avenue in Brooklyn. Hope to see all of you there. Brother Black, your final thoughts.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Okay. The name of the game right now, y'all, is distraction. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to deviate from the topic, but this, if you want to keep it on topic, this goes out to all our people who are in the Western New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia border that just got bombed by all this stuff not too long ago. I'm going to read something and then I'm going to finish it and then I'm going to be done with it. Dioxins are created from the burning of chlorinated chemicals such as vinyl chloride. Look it up. Ohio train wreck contained perhaps 1 million gallons of vinyl chloride, the most toxic synthetic chemical known to humankind. Now remember, you got to compound that with the snake bite that we ain't been talking about lately, because that's adding to everything that you have in you, whether it's latent or not. And this is why it's important you take care of your health. Because if you took that shot and now you being exposed to all this other stuff, Pittsburgh is in spitting area there, Buffalo, New York, heavy black populations in both those places, maybe one or two other, city. Cleveland is not too far from there, not down the street, but not too far. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. The one 10,000th of a grain of salt in dioxins is the maximum lifetime exposure. A single drop of dioxin contaminated rain can exceed lifetime exposure limits. Now, it got a few more bullet points, but for time's sake, I'm going to stop there. If you want to get at me, I'm Flavius Jones. I got a new account because they keep putting me in jail for nothing. But basically, you can get me at Flavius Jones on Facebook. As well, everything right now that's happening is a distraction, especially for Black people, because in the cosmos of time, it's over for them. And this is why all of these extreme things are happening. There's no way in the world you could light those kind of chemicals in a populated area. So, and remember, that's over there by the lake. So all of that is wind going over water everywhere you go, even though those areas ain't heavily populated. It's still people there, and they got to leave those places because it's like Chernobyl they're comparing it to. And to those of you who don't know what Chernobyl is, you need to look that up because that's also in the Ukraine. All right. So Flavius Jones on Facebook, get at me. I got more information than that. You know what I'm saying? But for time's sake and all that, much love to the panel. I love y'all. We'll talk next week. Peace.
Yes, indeed. Thank
Love
you,
you,
Brother Black, Brother Tad.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We took a trip down memory lane, reminding people of what it's like when the culture's intact and people have a self-identity, integrity, and dignity about themselves. So hopefully you were inspired by something you learned tonight and just turn to go out and inspire others. So I want y'all to stay up, stay blessed, stay true, and remember, no matter how hard things may seem right now, there's always better days ahead. Sister
Peace,
Keisha.
brother.
I want to say good night and salute all of y'all from my brother Ashe, the fire guard. He was having some technical difficulties. Hopefully next week everything will be fine, but I think I know why we were having issues. It is because some of the melody from the clip that we saw could have been triggered. But anyway, next week we will have part 2. You're going to see Dr. Nathan Hare. In this piece, you are going to see Dr. John Henry Clark and many others. And you're also going to see a very interesting dialogue between the owner of Johnson Publishing Company and his daughter at that time. Brother Ashe, I sent the video to you. You should have it. Follow us on Facebook and on Instagram this weekend. I'm going to post some great classic footage on our Instagram page. You might want to check that out. Good night, family. Keep it black. We'll see you back next Thursday right here on the Brooklyn Bridge where it goes down. Good night, y'all. We out.